All right, so we just heard that it said recording in progress.
Hmm.
Did you get the little button?
Yeah, the okay.
Okay, well, and we all hit okay, so we're good to go. So we've done a few of these now, and now it's evening time in Boston because we're talking with Adam from San Diego, and it is like 5 o'clock, right?
Yes,
So,
here it is.
okay, but school day's done, and yeah, all right. So we're feeling good. So, Adam, remember the day that I first chatted with you in August. I was on the Replit forums. Replit was shutting down, and there was this person. I don't know how do you say your last name? Jaff?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Jaff. And with Mr. Jaff was like, I need a thing now. Like, I'm about all my stuff's about to get deleted. Like, does anyone know something to that effect of like, does anyone know where we can all go? And I was like, I'm gonna get. I had been banned before by Replit in their forums for promoting my stuff. So I was like, I really just want to help this guy out, but like I can't. There's no chat on the site, and I can't post on here because I'm gonna get banned again. So I just Googled your name, and like your course website came up, and I got your email off your course website. And so then I just sent an email that was like, "Do you want another site? Like we have one."
Mhm.
And I do feel a little bit bad for like creepily tracking you down, but it's like I had no other way to communicate because I was going to get banned from that forum.
Well, my biggest surprise also was just the fact that the filters that the school districts use allowed your email and didn't just auto, toss it out because it wasn't from the same district. And also it's across the country as well too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess we have trouble because I pickcode.com is too expensive. It's like 4,700 bucks for us to buy the .com. So we have the
Wow.
.io. The .io was like 30 bucks, which is much more reasonable. So I don't know who wants pickcode.com so badly, but yeah, $4,700 for a domain is that I don't have that kind of money. So yeah, the .io actually is a problem a lot of times. Like a lot of school blocking software will just like blanket .io is just bad. Um,
Mhm.
so anyways, so I mean it's been a while since we've chatted at all, actually. I mean, hopefully things have been going smooth. So how have things been going? What's the report back on using Pickcode this year so far? And you're not a paid actor, so you know,
It's-
so we'll get into actually in particular like any feedback you have and things that we want to add and change going
Mhm.
forward. But I take it things have been going okay at least because I haven't heard from you.
Yeah, things have been going phenomenally, actually. I was able to Um, the forum post I believe that you referenced was me asking if there was a way to mass export, like download everything. Because I had
Okay.
made hundreds and hundreds of program codes in multiple languages. Because I mean, I've been teaching this course for more than 5 years now. And so each year I'd have new program codes that I experiment with and use, and which the students would just kind of click on the link, see the code, build from it, etc. So it was a very important resource. And thankfully, I was responded to, aside from yourself indirectly, I was responded to with a way to mass download everything. So I was able to
That's
save all the Python files, all the Java files, all the C files, which was very convenient because then when you introduced me to Pickcode, then I was able to basically just take all those files and transfer them over very quickly since it supports all those, well, it supports Java and Python
great.
at the time. And still, the uh, the main challenge that I'd had with because I was looking, I mean, since that week back then, I was kind of pretty madly week before kids come back looking for an alternative because we don't just program in one development environment. I mean, we switch to local, so Visual Studio Code and different
Okay.
programs at a later point once things get a bit more compact and advanced and work with GUIs and stuff. But those first 2 months on a development environment where students are able to access each other's code through cloud sharing, basically, that is very instrumental in students working together and collaborating, which is a very effective way, a better way for them to learn code, because most students don't just kind of buckle down and do it themselves solo. And so when I first checked out the program, that was actually the biggest deal, that the program had sharing, and it didn't just have cloud sharing, it had live cloud sharing, which was similar to Google systems, Google Docs and things, where one kid types, other kid can see it live, and then they can both run the code. And one of them can even click a run, and then it runs in the other one as well, and then they can type in input and stuff. It was very intuitive for the students to get
Yeah,
going
well,
with.
that's good.
Um,
So one thing that's funny is that we have like you're actually just using our free stuff, right? Like, and so I
mhm.
don't know if people super know that, but like you can get a lot of stuff done on the free plan. And I know because whenever you're making a thing, it's like, okay, we got the free plan, we got the paid plan, like what's in the paywall, whatever. I've known since August that you really use the sharing stuff. So we've talked a couple times of like, oh, what should go in the paywall, what can't go in the paywall. I'm like, the sharing stuff has to stay free because Adam uses the sharing stuff and we can't like ruin Adam's life. It's the Adam rule basically is that like, once someone's using, part of the stuff and we've given it away for free, like we're not pulling the rug out from anybody.
Mhm.
So, yes, due to you in particular, that is
Well,
something
thank you.
everybody
I
gets
mean,
for free.
I actually, so in February, we've in my this is my intro computer science classes, which are primarily 10th graders and some 11th. We had learned all of the content that we have to learn in multiple different languages, five different programming languages and five different IDEs, so development apps and programs, including Pickcode is one of them. And when February comes around, that's basically the first open project students have, which is basically just you got 3 weeks, build something. You can use any program you want, as long as it has certain coding requirements. And 50% of my students chose Pickcode. And
That's data.
their primary reason was for two reasons, because I sent surveys out to them and asked them because I'm very curious with the programs I use, and it was primarily two reasons. And the first reason was the sharing, which was if they're in a different program or a local program, they have to, huddle over a computer and work together, and then, they have to copy and paste the code places, and it's chaos, and send the file home by saving it and then emailing it to themselves. Um, and the second reason was because all of the other systems are not for education. And I mean, many of them are for professional programmers.
Yeah, yeah.
And the limiting factor of that is that all of them have either AI, autocomplete, autofill, spell check. They have these features which unfortunately are damaging, in my opinion, damaging students' learning. Um, where I mean, a student has to learn from writing the code, and if autofill is doing it for them, or AI, even worse, is doing it for them, they're just going to press enter and just put it in there because it's super easy. They're not going to actually engage with the code, and that was the biggest struggle I had with Replit prior was they injected AI, and there was no it was very difficult to turn it off. And Pickcode, thankfully, doesn't have any of that. It's clearly the main difference between it and the other programs, and I think why the students primarily 50% of them chose it is because it is made for education
Yeah.
and it is more clear. It doesn't have a bunch of excess or
Yeah.
bells and whistles and things that aren't necessary.
It would be very difficult to do professional programming on Pickcode, but that is not the purpose. So,
Yes.
I
Well,
I
thankfully the
don't,
students aren't making things professional, right?
yeah, I
There,
mean,
it's learning still,
yeah, you got
but
a half dozen Python files and you're trying to do a text adventure or whatever you want to do, or
mhm.
a website or whatever you want to do, like, I mean, I appreciate the students voting with their choice of IDE. So what else do you use in the class then? I guess you said some local offline stuff and a couple
Yeah,
different.
we use quite a few. We use Visual Studio Code. We also do Godot, which is a program for making games. We do RunPy, which is a Python-based program for making games. We do BlueJ, which is an offline program for Java programming. We also do NetBeans, which is in Java, and we do like a little bit of Unity. which is in C sharp, and C++ primarily. Um, and I mean, it surprised me this year, especially. I mean, this was the first year using Pickcode, obviously, so it very much surprised me because those numbers were not the same before, what like last year, past 4 years when I used Replit. Um, because I'm a little bit unsure, but this is very interesting.
Well, that that warms the heart a little bit. I do like that. Because I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like we sell software to teachers, and we want to make sure that the teachers are successful or whatever, right? But the vast majority of the people, if we have 15,000 some odd accounts that have been created on Pickcode, 14,500 of those are students, right?
Mm.
And so like that's we like this the student experience that we've had hasn't changed almost at all in the last couple of years. Like we really made the focused thing that the students use, and that's kind of stayed put. We've obviously like added some stuff to how the code is executed and everything like that. But so I guess with these personal projects that they're working on or their thing, and 50% of students just pick code, what are some of the cool things that you've seen students make? Or like what's the best thing you've seen inside of Pickcode? Because like we obviously we don't see what goes on in there. We just kind of see the
So I cannot state, unfortunately, to their current projects because they're actually uh, for the AP test is what they're building them for. So I can't admit any of that information, but I can say previous projects in Pickcode. We started in Pickcode, and so with programming, these are students who have no prior experience with programming whatsoever. And the initial products we did were mostly kind of math-based ones, like, Pythagorean theorem, those types of things. But eventually, it actually built into students making games. In the case of text-based adventures,
yeah,
is
yeah.
actually a very interesting aspect from the students. A lot of them, they also built, they're more just kind of quality of life things, like, calculators, to-do lists, that kind of stuff. It's sort of things that mostly students are inspired to build things that they can use in some capacity and or have fun with in the case of like a video game or something. And so those definitely are up there with regards to it.
So with the create task, they take like a video, right? So is the College Board going to get a bunch of Pickcode videos?
Yes. Yeah, they get I have the oh no, actually I don't think Pickcode has that problem. Normally I have to have the students crop the top because there can't be any identifying information in it to
Yeah,
the
no,
AP graders.
we don't put any
But
on it.
and all the other IDs do that. They'd have the username, the email, the whatever, and I don't think Pickcode does that, so that'll save them some time. But but yeah, so there's gonna be, I mean, at least uh half of 130. So quite a few students, given they all fall through
Uh,
with their AP
and
tasks and
there are
stuff.
other because I'm just thinking about it because like I've talked to other people even just this week for the beginnings of our wonderful YouTube series, and they're saying they're doing the create task. So these eight maybe that so here's what we do, right? This is the marketing. We have all of the students do their create task in pick code, but it doesn't say pick code on the thing. Because I was going to say the AP readers themselves are CSP teachers.
Hmm.
But I
Well,
don't,
the students do have to declare what language and what IDE they used for it. So the grader will see, they'll see, I mean, Python or whichever language, Java, Python, etc., HTML, and they'll see the IDE, which is the students also have to share not just the name of the IDE, but the source location. So it would actually be Pico.io would be the source because that's where it's actually sourced from.
there we go. Okay, well, so then this is some sneaky marketing. I feel kind of good about this now because now we've got 65 and they're going to get distributed between whoever knows how many AP graders there are. And
Mhm.
these AP graders are going to say, that's a nice looking IDE. And that could work out very well for us. That's
You
nice
might get
marketing.
a lot of contact after July.
There we go.
Um, because
Um,
after July is when all the information and the test stuff it can be publicized or can be so forth. The graders can actually talk about what they grade after that point because it's all submitted and finalized.
Got it. Got it. And so there's also like a test component, right, though, as well. There's like a sit down. They have to
Yeah,
answer.
there is a test component. The test component is primarily to do with programming, like multiple choice, at least the current form. But there is also a free response section where the students have to explain their like certain aspects of their code, certain parts of it to It's derived from previous, before 2020, they had a different, the students would actually write in class in person, but they made a change so that it's actually on the test date.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah.
but they are provided their code and everything for it, so they don't have to memorize their code, which is good.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to ask, right, is we're trying to talk to teachers and figure out what we're working on for the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever. What are the, because I mean, you used Replit for ages and it sounds like you were kind of a power user. What are some pros and cons? What are things that well, we talked about pros. So what are the things that you would like to see in Pickcode that we would change or add or bugs because we've chatted through those and gotten some solutions actually with some teachers live on YouTube here. So what are
Well,
those things you're looking for?
I do want to say initially first, and I'm not sure if this was just with me or if it's a bit more commonplace, but back in, I believe it was October, it was a while ago, I sent you an email and it was just a general request. And it was that there's one thing that Replit, etc. IDs have that Pico does not have, and it was a way to download the files. And then a few months later, I see an update and there's a download button, and the kids can now download all their program files. That was actually a big thing for the create task because they have to download it and they have to upload
Oh,
the files and stuff.
perfect. Yeah, yeah.
And it's much easier than copy paste. So yeah, that was something. But okay, so to your initial question, um, I would say one thing that um, well, Visual Studio Code, which is a that professionals use, but one thing that it does have on it is it does have folders and file structure. Primarily which I think Pickcode also has file structure too, but the primary thing is at a certain point in the year, I have students reading and writing to text files, and that's
Yeah.
primarily just to show them how to make programs that interact with the different folders and files in the OS for directory. And uh, in Replit and prior examples, what they would do is in the sidebar or the top bar that says the files, it would have the text file on there. Um, and in Pickcode, I mean, I think it does let the students, if they write a code that writes a new text file, it does let them download it and it does let them access it. But I think the kind of clarity is a bit less. I'm not sure if it pops up there or not from being written if the student is making it.
Also, I didn't want to immediately get my
Oh yeah,
huge
go ahead.
huge grin on, but we fixed that.
Oh, you fixed that issue. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
So
good.
I don't know how, I mean, it's very different. Well, so it was not, I guess it was like the last newsletter that we sent out. You get the newsletters, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
I mean, which everybody gets a million newsletters a day. So, I mean, how many are you going to read? But the most recent newsletter we actually had done, we just went like crazy and did a bunch of features that teachers have been requesting. And that was one of them. So it kind of got buried in there. But, yeah, we actually changed up like the whole code running system. So hopefully nobody noticed. Like what are I ideally nobody noticed. They're like or not noticing subtly faster loading times. And then we were able to add a couple of extra Python libraries and all of the file writing stuff is much better now. So like if you say with open output.txt w as f dot write a random number and you press play, you'll see it refreshing in your project editor.
Nice. Now I definitely and my students and I definitely have noticed that it's faster, but that's I mean since October certainly that it's just general. The including the sharing between students too, as in they can run it and the other one sees it and it isn't some sort of buggy thing where they both have to refresh to get everything back into form. But I don't know then of changes for recommendations. I mean,
Well, I mean I mean I was saying this to someone else the other day. Is like I just have a big spreadsheet of everything that everyone's ever asked for. And like you added it's almost like a little petition where you like added your name to the petition of like, I am Adam. I am a teacher who also wants better Python file writing. And when there are enough signatures on the petition, we got to go do it. So you were maybe like the third or fourth person who had asked for it. And it was like kind of a tricky thing for us to get done. And we kind of wanted to switch to this new, we sort of had to. rip the band-aid off to switch to this whole new code running system. But a little pick code inside baseball. Now, when you press play, you'll notice the first time you press play, it's probably actually slower. There's a little like connecting wheel, and then you get this server little thing for yourself. And then every time you press play, it should be much faster.
Mhm.
Whereas before, it would be like every time would be about 2 or 3 seconds, no matter how many times you ran it. So now it should be like if from time 2 through 100, it should be much faster. And then like we're better able to develop the new features of the file writing and the whatever.
Well, then I guess the only thing that I can think of then is because after pick code, the next step that I do with my students, this is in like November, mid to end November, is like basic kind of graphics, so GUIs. And in that it's actually one of the harder units of the year for students because GUIs are tough. But if Pickcode did have a very simple, I mean, even just kind of you load it in a PNG and then you can size it and then place it, kind of a thing, on a canvas or something, like actually similar to the HTML area. That if that was supported for Java and Python, especially Python, because it's a bit more introductory, like that, then I wouldn't have to kind of migrate the students over to different program at that time necessarily, and I'd have that second or pay code is like a second option for students to stay there.
Now this is where the Atom rule does not apply. So we do
Oh
have
yes.
this is graphics has been supported all year, but is behind the paywall. And so
Mhm.
once it's behind the paywall, it's probably not making its way back out. So but it sounds like you do have a good solution in that you have like these other
Mhm.
IDs that you can use in a computer lab that works. But this is not a sales meeting, so we'll figure out if we can get a
Oh
license
yes.
worked out, that'd be good because but I mean for what it's worth, one of the things that you do get with that is the graphic stuff.
Mhm.
And why is that the case? Partially is that in the cloud it's like a lot more expensive for us to get the graphic stuff going. So if we gave the graphics away for free, our server bills would be
Oh yes, that's
getting
understandable.
getting quite a bit higher. So the like basic Python isn't quite as much, but the graphic stuff gets a little bit fancy. So you can do like Java FX and you can do swing stuff in Java, and then you can do Turtle and tkinter and Pygame and all that kind of stuff. Although still, please don't ask me for sound. Uh,
No, don't worry about that.
Playing sounds, I tried to look into how to do that one day, and it was 3 hours of me, and I was using all of the available resources online, including some of our friends over at ChatGPT, and I could not. It was not like 10 lines of code figure it out. It was like a whole can of worms, and I was just like, I hope never like I hope never like no one ever asked me for sound because it's gonna take forever to
Well, it's
figure.
okay. Teachers, at least teachers who know what they're doing, or our parents, know that sound is good, that it's not on there. You do not want 36 kids click and play with a duck sound every constantly in the class all day. You do not, you do not want
You
that.
may you might be actually unhappy to hear about one of our newer developments, which will not be paywalled, which is we're going to be adding support. I've always wanted to do this. I ran this lesson once when I was a high school teacher. I was a teacher for a couple of years,
Mhm.
and I made a lesson where students can write Python code that generates songs. So they say like add the first note in the scale and the second note in the scale, and kids would make it say happy birthday or whatever. And like that was a very fun lesson. And like to this day, I've always wanted to add that kind of thing to Pickcode. And finally, the other day, I did make a demo version of that, and I'm pretty sure soon enough, in the project, maybe you have never had to change it, but when you select your programming language, you select Python, and then there's a couple of options for the different project types. Soon, I think music making will be one of them. And so you'll
Oh,
be able to say
interesting.
like song dot play note C, song dot play note D, and then it'll like play a little sound for you. So unfortunately, there'll be a way to make sounds. It just won't be like tkinter, Turtle, Java FX,
That's
whatever.
fine. If it's in a different program, It's fine.
Yeah, it'll be
It's a time and a
hidden.
place.
People won't necessarily find out about it too quickly. Um, all right. Well, I don't know. Did you have any other thoughts, questions, ideas before we sign off here?
Oh no. I mean, I did just want to, in the conclusion, I guess, just say that this was quite a bit of a lifesaver. It would have been an extremely difficult year to just go straight into professional software with the students with no programming experience whatsoever. And yeah, it was a very nice timing for an email suddenly from a stranger.
From some random guy. So I guess it's a good thing. Moral of the story to anyone listening, just track people down online and email them, and they'll be happy that you did it. It's good stuff happen.
Worst that happens is they don't respond. But
Or they mark,
sometimes,
or they mark
especially
it as spam.
especially especially in education, where a lot of things are a few years behind, and especially with regards to tech, we don't have the newest computers, we don't have the newest programs, we can't dish out a few thousand on a new program for all the students necessarily without a bunch of overhead. And so, but yeah, I mean, I guess the finale, it would be, I think maybe just for your marketing, if you had a button, even if it was just like on the projects page, like a subtle one that was like a patch notes. And I don't mean it like, like it's a video game thing, but I mean it just like you can click this
We
button.
nerfed Java today.
It's easy. Um, just like a thing so that because students aren't probably going to click on it that much, but for teachers who are experimenting or looking at it, just so that they can click on it, even including there maybe like here's the paid stuff, like here's the list of some of the paid, just because. I mean, it's probably somewhere, but I mean, I didn't know that graphics were included or
Yeah,
were
yeah,
possible in it.
yeah.
But I'm not also scouring through that stuff. And if it was just something that was a subtle, not invasive button that you could just click on it and then it would, tell you a few things that might inspire some people to check it out.
That's smart. I think we do. That's good. I'm gonna write that down. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's always hard to communicate because we do add stuff pretty frequently, but some of the core stuff of like, hey, the paid ones where you get the graphics. That's something that we should be able to communicate at least a little bit better. So I think it's a good idea. All right, Adam. Well, thanks for chatting. And let me know if anything comes up with Pickcode and keep going. And then yeah, let's get those create tasks sent out. Let's get those AP graders trying to figure out what their next IDE is. I think that's gonna
Well,
go.
we'll see if you get a big surplus in end of July, early August of
That'd
accounts
be
suddenly
great.
being made.
Yeah, let's see. All right. Well, hey, again, thanks for everything. And so I'm gonna hit stop here, but have a great night.
You too.
All right, peace out.